Jaina Stormborn is reckless, rebellious, and a bit of a show-off. That's exactly why Master Midori taught her archery as a way to instill some patience. She wields a magical bow with an endless supply of flame arrows. Jaina is a strong zoning character, one of the best in the game at keeping opponents away. She does it by creating an obstacle course of flame arrows. Her B button shoots a flame arrow. She can do that on the ground or in the air. On the ground, she can hold down the B button to charge it up. Her level 2 shot destroys enemy projectiles and keeps on going. Her level 3 shot is unblockable. In the air, holding B doesn't charge up her shots, but it does allow her to extend her hang time, which can be helpful. Jaina's Air C shoots a different kind of flame arrow diagonally up, and then it rains down a bit later. The most important thing to know about it is that she can have as many of these shots on screen as she can get. Usually, in Phantasy Strike and most fighting games, you can't shoot a projectile while your previous projectile is still on screen. For example, Jaina can only have one horizontal shot on screen at any given time, whether that's her Air B or her Ground B, but she can do Air C shots in addition to that. And to amp it up, her Air Super fires off 3 of these shots at once, and all of that can be in addition as well. For example, she can jump C, and then jump Air Super, and then land and shoot her horizontal B shot. That's a lot of projectiles at once, and it's also a good setup to try to land her unblockable level 3 shot while the opponent is dealing with the rain of fire. Jaina's knee, her forward A normal attack, has a lot of uses. She can travel forward quickly with it, and it's a pretty high priority attack. On hit or on block, she can cancel into an air special. This lets her combo knee into Air B for 2 hits. If you happen to hit the opponent out of the air really high up, you can actually combo into another knee and then into Air B for 3 damage. Her neutral A is a fast kick that also cancels the specials. Her jumping A is a dive kick with a very shallow angle. She can't really use it to get close to opponents, but if she's already near them, it lets her put together some pretty good rushdown. Her standard 3-hit combo is dive kick, knee, Air B. She can also dive kick, neutral A, ground B. Her roundhouse kick, done with back plus A, can't cancel the special moves, but it reaches pretty far. It lets her poke or sometimes punish things that she otherwise couldn't, because her roundhouse hits faster at long range than any of her other attacks. Jaina usually wants to keep opponents away and make them deal with a lot of arrow shots, but what if they manage to get close? She has 2 invulnerable moves to knock opponents off her, but they each have drawbacks. Keep in mind that even a bad reversal attack is extremely powerful on a solid keep-away character. Jaina's first reversal option is Dragonheart, which is her ground C attack. It's an invulnerable Dragon Punch style move that knocks opponents away. It has slow startup, but even more notably, it damages herself. Yes, really. You have to be very careful with this move, but if you only have 1 life left, it won't kill you, so you can go hog wild at that point. But keep in mind that Dragonheart is completely unsafe on block. Even though taking self-damage is a big drawback, it can be worth it. If the opponent is jumping in at you and you have to choose between blocking or Dragonheart, well, if you block, it lets the opponent start doing what they want to do. But if you Dragonheart, it will damage them for 1, as well as damage you for 1, and it will leave the opponent at full screen. They'll probably have to block your next flame arrow too. That way, you're doing what you want to do. Jaina's second reversal option is her ground super, Red Dragon. It doesn't cost her life to use, but it has an enormously long startup. She has to predict a move quite early to hit with Red Dragon. Jumping opponents can even block it on a reaction if she does it too late. It still has its uses though, and it does 2 damage on hit. Jaina excels at filling the screen with flame arrows and forcing the opponent to figure out how to deal with it all. She can vary the timing of her obstacle course to frustrate opponents. If they stay back, they'll end up taking block damage or even get hit by her unblockable level 3 shot as her air super rains down. When things go wrong, can you afford the 1 life to Dragonheart them off you? Can you afford not to? Jaina is a bit of a paradox in that she combines patience and recklessness in her own unusual style. Argagar Garg is a water shaman and patient fish, known in his circles for his wise advice, even though outsiders wrongly view the fishfolk as a savage and violent race, but they couldn't be more wrong. Argagarg is a zoner, a keep-away character. His long-range attacks and water waves keep his opponents far away while his poison ticks away at their life. Let's start with his normal attacks. His forward A attack reaches across the entire screen and you can cancel it to special moves. It's a great zoning tool. His back A punches are short range but very high priority. Have the courage to use this small but effective attack to hit jumping opponents and keep them off of you. His neutral A punch reaches really far, and while it doesn't have the high priority of his back A, the range makes up for it. If you counter hit a jumper, that is, hit them out of the startup of their attack, they'll fall on their back, and you can combo to forward A for 2 damage. Also keep in mind that Argagard can cancel all 3 of his ground normal attacks into specials. Jumping A is another long-range attack, this time diagonally downward. Argagard's flying fish moves are done with the B button. He can press B for a blue fish made of water, or hold B for a purple, poisoned version. The poison version is central to his character, so let's cover that first. The poison fish is really large for starters. It also passes through all obstacles. Enemy projectiles or other objects can't stop it. And it's unblockable. Yes, really, it's unblockable. When it hits, it poisons the opponent. They don't take any damage immediately, but they'll eventually take 2 damage from this poison unless they hit you. If they hit Argagard while they're poisoned, they'll be cured. While they're poisoned, there's an icon of a flask that moves across their life bar. That shows how long until the poison will take away that particular hit point. Notice that if the opponent gets knocked down, or if they put Argagard into block stun by forcing him to block a move, the flask will momentarily pause its countdown. That's minor though. The main thing to understand here is that the poison fish's unblockable, unstoppable nature forces the opponent to act. They can't just sit there and do nothing. You can also stack multiple poison fish to poison more and more of their life bar. They could be on the hook to lose 6 or 8 hit points if you can keep them away for that long. And that brings us to the drawback of this move. If they hit you within a few seconds of getting poisoned, then the poison didn't actually do anything. You have to be able to keep them away long enough for the poison to tick to harness Argagard's full potential. Also, the poison fish has another unusual drawback. It doesn't cause any hit stun. The opponent can simply hit you while you're doing it. They can walk straight through it, get hit by it, but then hit you back, so be careful to only use it when it's safe. You get the poison fish by holding down the B button, but if you press and release the B button, you'll get the blue flying fish. This one is made of water, so it doesn't actually deal any damage at all. It does splash opponents on hit and stuns them for so long that you can usually hit them with your forward A attack for 1 damage. And even if you don't hit them with that, it's still valuable to waste their time with the blue fish if they're poisoned. Argagard's C special move is Rushing River. He summons a river of water that pushes opponents back. Again, this is helpful to waste their time if they're poisoned, and to keep them away from Argagard regardless of whether they're poisoned or not. He's better off fighting from a distance. While the river is out, you can press C again to summon an orange fish that jumps out of the river. You can hold back, neutral, or forward during that C button press to get 3 different angles of this fish. It's a real fish, not made of water, so it does actual damage. The neutral version of this is great for keeping away opponents and hitting them if they try to jump in. The back version is good at hitting jumpers who are much closer to you, and the forward version is good for applying some pressure. You can also summon these orange fish even while you're doing another move, or while you're in block stun. There's a bunch of trickery you can do with this, on both the air and the ground. Air B is his staff drill. It's a pretty good priority attack that can be used defensively if you jump back into it, or offensively if you jump forward into it. You usually can't combo after it, but you can at least try to pressure afterwards. Air C is his Sparkling Bubble. This lets him travel horizontally through the air, and you can hold left or right as you initiate it to travel either direction. During your travels, you can press C again to pop the bubble. The pop is invulnerable after a short startup. You can use this bubble even after doing your jumping A punch. That lets you hit the opponent and then back away to safety, or pressure them and threaten a pop if you're feeling risky. You can also combine the bubble with the ground C's orange fish. Do Rushing River, then immediately jump in Sparkling Bubble. As you travel, pressing C will summon the river's orange fish. Then you can choose to pop the bubble with another C button press if you want. For an even more powerful bubble, Argagard's ground super is Bubble Shield. This summons a bubble around him that you can pop by pressing S again. While the bubble is popping, Argagard can still move around, block, do attacks, etc. The pop even moves forward with him if you walk. Another really powerful aspect of Bubble Shield is that you can pop it even if you're in block stun. So you can block a move, and while you're stuck in block pose for a moment, you can pop the bubble to hit the opponent out of their attack. Plus, there's another powerful property of Bubble Shield. When you initiate it, the game is briefly paused. This lets you see what the opponent is doing, and it allows you to do the correct response on reaction. It's especially good to do as you get it from a knockdown when the opponent has you in a mix-up. Another property to know about: while Bubble Shield is up, your Air Sea Sparkling Bubble is powered up too. It travels faster, and the pop of this super bubble has a huge invulnerable hitbox. You'll fall to the ground faster after popping it too. While you're falling from this air super pop, you can do another air move before you land. Try popping the powered up bubble in the air, and then air A for a combo, or pop and then back air C to run away. That said, you'll use up your Bubble Shield this way. That can be worth it since you're building up super meter this whole time anyway. Argagarg's Air Super, Giant Fish, is straightforward to use because it does exactly what he generally wants to do: push the opponent away and waste their time. It's especially annoying when he combines it with his ground B and C special moves to keep them away. Let's look more closely at some pressure sequences Argagarg can do to keep the opponent busy. When you do Rushing River, you can then spit a Flying Fish right afterwards, then summon the river's Orange Fish. Follow up with forward A, Flying Fish again, and then repeat the sequence. Or you can open with a forward A long punch, cancel to Flying Fish, Rushing River, Flying Fish, Orange Fish, and then Air Super. You can then long punch them before and after the Giant Fish hits for a great combo, and then keep up the pressure afterwards. Even on block, this wastes a lot of time and lets your poison damage tick. Argagarg is a difficult character to play, not because doing any of his moves is hard, but because there's so much he can do, and it will all fall apart unless you can zone them long enough for poison to do something. And you have to really know how to get out of trouble with brave uses of back A, Bubble Shield, or just a lot of blocking when you're getting pressured. And you have to take control of the match with maximum obnoxiousness when you're far away. Philosophically, Argagarg believes in defeating opponents through patience, and if you actually have the patience to learn to play him, then you will truly understand him, as his fellow fish do. Valerie Rose is a creative painter with the bursts of energy and feelings of despair that come with manic depression. She also has heterochromia, meaning she has one green eye and one blue eye, which might be why she sees things differently. Valerie is a rushdown character. She can deal high damage, and she can apply a lot of pressure through block damage and mix-ups. She only has 5 hit points though, which is tied for least in the game. Valerie's 3 colors series is her most important attack string. By pressing B 3 times, she paints attacks with cyan, magenta, and yellow colors in quick succession. During each of these 3 hits, you can hold back, neutral, or forward to change the ranges of the moves. The first 2 hits, cyan and magenta, are a true combo, but the yellow hit that comes third does not combo. Instead, it's a mix-up. You can hold forward during yellow, and you will cross the opponent up. Hold neutral during yellow to stay on the same side instead. You can also hold back during yellow to do a quick retreat. This can bait the opponent into attacking. Try cyan magenta retreat, then cyan magenta again for some pressure. Valerie's C button move is Rainbow Stroke. It's a pretty high priority attack that hits at a lot of angles. The startup of it can even go through projectiles. Valerie can do a Rainbow Stroke during her 3 color series too. She can do cyan into it, or cyan then magenta into Rainbow Stroke. Rainbow Stroke is safe on block, so it's a good ender. The sequence cyan, magenta, Rainbow Stroke is 3 different special moves, which is enough to deal a full point of block damage. That's a lot of pressure, especially considering it's at least 2 damage if the cyan move happens to hit. Air C is her flying Rainbow Stroke. It's pretty similar to the ground version, but it travels much farther. It's useful to get in on opponents if you're far away, and if you happen to hit jumping opponents with it, you can juggle for extra damage. Valerie's Air B cross stroke move is a deadly cross-up. Its disadvantage is that it cannot hit until just after she lands, but once she does, the paint trail behind her hits, and it can be hard to block. On hit, she can combo into BB. Even on block, that's a guaranteed full point of block damage. Valerie's normal attacks are quite good as well. Her forward A is a very long and fast poke. Her neutral A is fast too, and it can cancel to specials. If you cancel it with B, it will go directly into the yellow attack though, not the full cyan, magenta, yellow sequence. Even A to yellow is effective because it threatens a mix-up as to which side the yellow will hit them on. Her double kick is a slow attack, but still a very useful one. It does 2 damage if it hits, and if they block it, Valerie recovers soon enough to have lots of frame advantage. That, combined with her already fast moves, means the opponent will likely get hit if they try to do anything after blocking it. It even has a bit of throw invulnerability as she hops forward. Her jumping A can be a high source of damage. She can press A twice to air juggle for 2 damage. She can often land and juggle with a neutral A for a 3rd point of damage and then cancel that into yellow to force a mix-up for a possible 4th point of damage. She can also get 4 damage off jumping AA, then BB after landing. Valerie's ground super, Chromatic Orb, is kind of like a Dragon Punch in other fighting games. It's invulnerable and gets opponents off her if she's getting pressured too much. It only does 1 damage, though against cornered jumpers she can juggle for a 2nd damage. While Chromatic Orb can be good anti-air and can be used to bait opponents into attacking at wrong times, it's her other super that's truly deadly. Her air super is Rainbow Disc. It has slow startup, so she has to really earn a moment in the fight to summon it. If she can put it above an opponent, she can go crazy though. If they get hit, they will take a ton of damage. If they block, they'll take a ton of block damage. Be careful though, while they're blocking the disc, they're still able to do fast, invulnerable attacks between hits. She can go for mix-ups like repeated cross strokes or multiple yellow swipes while they're locked in place. Try to save your meter for rainbow discs if you can, but settle for Chromatic Orb if you're getting pressured too much. Valerie has the potential to deal a lot of damage really fast. She can trick opponents with frame traps from her double kick, with retreats from her 3 colors, and she can force them to block correctly or die against deadly cross strokes and rainbow discs. You might feel down sometimes when things don't line up, like when you die because you only have 5 hit points, but when a plan comes together with Valerie, it feels like a work of art. Master Ando Midori taught Grave and Jaina how to fight. He's a careful, honorable teacher who is able to take the form of a mighty dragon. Midori is a grappler. He has no projectiles, so he wants to get close and throw his opponents. Every so often, he can transform into a dragon, which lets him play as an entirely different, very powerful character. Midori's normal throw is one of his most important moves. It has really long range and it does 2 damage. It also leaves the opponent standing, so they have to think quickly about what to do next, as Midori can threaten to loop into another throw. Midori's normal attacks are his chop, double strike, and sweep. By pressing the A button twice, he does a rapid flurry of punches. You can mash A and he'll keep doing more flurries. He can also cancel his chop or his double strike into this. When an opponent gets up near Midori, they might be afraid of his throw. If they expect a throw, they might let go of their controls and try to Yomi counter him. The mix-up is that instead of throwing, he can simply press AA to hit them for 2 damage. Midori's C button is a parry. It doesn't work against throws or projectiles, but if a strike hits his parry, he'll take no damage and automatically hit back. He also gains super meter for parrying. If this parry strike actually hits the opponent, Midori gains a crazy power-up and a glow showing that he's in this empowered mode. While empowered, if Midori is able to throw the opponent, he does so automatically with no button presses, with a special throw that only happens in this mode. There are a lot of crazy uses of this, and Midori can even hold back to block while still threatening this throw. The opponent can jump out of this special throw, though they can't Yomi counter it. After Midori performs his empowered throw, he'll lose the special state, and he has to parry another attack to get into it again. If he gets hit while empowered, he'll also lose the state. Interestingly though, if he's in the empowered mode, you can still normal throw. That's good to do because it does 2 damage instead of the empower throw's 1 damage, and it lets you keep the empowered throw so you can continue to threaten with it. Midori's B button does a flying kick on the ground or in the air. This is mainly to help him get close to the opponent. His Air C is a flying butt slam. It hits on the way down, but not on the way up, and is surprisingly safe on block, allowing for some throw setups. This is very useful in helping him get in because it can avoid a lot of obstacles the opponent might put up. Midori's jumping forward A is a fairly shallow jump kick that can lead to a combo. His jumping straight up A is a different move though, and it gives him a little extra mobility. He can steer it forward or back in the air. Steering forward can help get over projectiles and generally helps him threaten with it. Steering back allows him to attack but pull back from danger if the situation looks bad. Midori's super, both ground and air versions, transforms him into a dragon. Remember, parrying gives him super meter, so the more moves you parry, the more you'll be able to turn into dragon form. While in dragon form, your super meter counts down, giving you a time limit until you revert back to human form. You do get to remain in dragon form across rounds. His dragon moves are generally crazy. His AA does a 2-hit attack with enormous hitboxes. It's great anti-air and it does 2 damage. He can even still do air moves after his AA. His forward AA reaches pretty far and does 2 damage as well. His back plus A is a tail sweep that reaches ridiculously far and fast. Midori's Dragon Form B on the ground and in the air is a torpedo that's way more powerful than his human form's flying kick. It's fast and high priority. When the ground version hits or is blocked, he bounces back and can still do air moves, such as another air beat. His Dragon Form C button does different kinds of throws in the ground and in the air. On the ground, he dashes forward and goes for a Dragon Buster. The dash has infinite hits of super armor, meaning no matter how many times he gets hit during it, he keeps going and still tries to throw. His Air C is a Talon Swoop that flies across the screen to grab opponents. Both these throws deal 2 damage. Neither can be Yomi countered, and in both cases the opponent can jump out. Let's not forget his jumping A in Dragon Form. It's probably the best normal attack in the game. It's huge, high priority, and hits for 2 damage. Another thing you should be aware of is how his transformation itself affects gameplay. As he transforms, gameplay briefly pauses, and this gives you a moment to react to what the opponent is doing. You can transform, then AA to anti-air them if they jumped. Or transform and C if you see that they'll be unable to avoid that special throw, or simply transform and normal throw them suddenly. Midori's incredible bear hug throw and parry make him scary when up close, but he can struggle to get in sometimes. Opponents can't keep him away forever though. If they stall long enough, they're just letting him turn into a dragon. Why not be a dragon the entire match then, you ask? Because a win doesn't really mean much unless it's done fair and honorably. So only a little bit of dragon here and there. Jefferson DeGray is a lawyer who fights for justice. His primary motivation is exposing the truth, and his primary physical skill is punching. DeGray was granted unnaturally long life by Persephone, and she left behind her ghostly friend to watch over DeGray and make sure he keeps up his quest of fighting tyrants. DeGray's gameplay isn't about rushdown exactly, and it isn't about zoning either. It's about frame trapping, which means making the opponent attack at the wrong times and punishing them for it greatly. Whenever you hit an opponent out of the startup of their moves in Fantasy Strike, you get a counter hit that stuns them slightly longer. But DeGray in particular has a special property. His counter hits cause much more dramatic effects, like wall bounces and ground bounces. DeGray's B button special is Counterpoint Step. He quickly dashes back, then forward again, and he can end the move 3 different ways by pressing either A, B, or C. A ends with Daggerfall Thrust, a punch that's very safe on block and gives a lot of frame advantage, which you can see from the blue symbol that appears on block. B ends with his powerful Tyrant Crusher, which does 2 damage. If you counter hit with it, it wall bounces the opponent and you can Tyrant Crusher again. He even says a different voice line if you do. Ending with C does Justice Kicks, an invulnerable attack that's unsafe on block. DeGray's C button sends his ghost out to grab the opponent. If she grabs them, she won't do any damage, but they're stunned briefly so DeGray can hit them himself. A good technique is to send out the ghost, then Counterpoint Step, and simply react to what happens. If the ghost grabs, then Tyrant Crusher. If not, then end with a safe punch or with no ender at all. Air C also summons the ghost and can be used in similar ways to the ground C. You can also do some cross-up trickery with the air version. DeGray's neutral A punch can combo to a second hit if you press A twice. If the ghost grabs the opponent when you're nearby, this is a good way to get 2 quick damage. Or you can punch and then cancel the second punch into the ghost summon to keep up the pressure. His forward A is a forward moving shoulder attack that he can cancel into ground specials. His back A ground pound has really long range, and on counter hit, it sends the opponent flying so you can Tyrant Crusher them. You can actually combo his shoulder attack and then Tyrant Crusher if the ground pound counter hit, which lets him do 4 damage mid-screen, but you have to really work to set up that situation. DeGray's Air B can cancel to a second hit if you press the button twice. This move gives him a lot of mobility and it lets him chase down opponents if he's far away. He can jump in and go for 2 damage with it, and on block, opponents aren't sure if he'll do 1 or 2 attacks. As an air-to-air move, it's difficult to juggle for 2 damage with it, but on counter hit, it is possible. DeGray's ground super is a parry move called Ghost Riposte. If an opponent attacks into it with a strike, he'll automatically reverse it into a powerful 2-fisted punch for 2 damage. Opponents can throw DeGray if he tries to go for this, and they can hit him with projectiles, but the threat of Ghost Riposte can make it difficult for some characters to attack him. DeGray's air super, Final Arbiter, is a fast, full-screen punch of justice. He can use it to get in or to sneak in a point of damage that he couldn't otherwise get, but the real dream is if you counter hit with it. In that case, it does a whopping 3 damage, so the fun of this move is fishing for that moment when you think the opponent will do something, and then counter hit them out of it. Playing DeGray has a different rhythm than other characters. He wants to counterpoint step a lot and send out his ghost a lot. He's fishing for a moment when the opponent does the wrong thing, so he can suddenly do a lot of damage. As a lawyer, DeGray will tell you that his opponents are bound to make a misplay sooner or later, and when they do, he'll be ready. General Onimaru is a master tactician in charge of the Flagstone Army. He's physically imposing and demands discipline from his soldiers. He's also adept at personal combat, where he wields an enormous sword. Onimaru's moves and movement are generally very slow, but extremely powerful. He deals a ton of damage and uses armor to power through hits to create favorable trades. Onimaru has a unique mechanic called Guard Crush. Normally, when opponents block 3 special or super moves, they lose a point of life, which we call block damage. But against Onimaru, rather than taking block damage, they get hit for real. To help opponents know they're in danger of this, whenever they block 2 such moves, a shield icon with a crack in it appears over their character, indicating they're in danger of a Guard Crush. If they try to block a 3rd move capable of block damage, that icon shatters and they get hit rather than blocking. Onimaru's Guard Crush is even more threatening because all his blade attacks are capable of dealing block damage, even 2 of his normal moves, Back A and Forward A. Back A is a sweep, while Forward A is a deadly overhead slice that deals 2 damage. His neutral A doesn't deal block damage, but it's his fastest attack. All of these normal attacks can cancel to special moves. Onimaru's B special attack, Tactical Slice, is a poke with huge range that deals a whopping 2 damage. The part where he spins around is invulnerable to projectiles, so he can step around them to hit the opponent. The recovery of this move puts him in a special stance where he can't block, but he can do 3 different enders: Shoulder Ram, Spirit Fire, or Parry. Press A for a fast Shoulder Ram that gives frame advantage on block, or press B for a slow attack with big range that has an active hitbox for a long time due to the samurai spirits it summons. Those spirits can destroy projectiles too. Or press C for a parry that's invulnerable to strikes and projectiles, and that automatically hits back if Onimaru gets hit. You can also hold the C button down to extend the duration of your parry attempt. It lasts pretty long this way. The parry is important because threatening it makes the opponent afraid to attack during the recovery of your tactical slice. If you know they will hesitate, then you don't need to parry at all, and you can apply pressure with either the Shoulder Ram or the Spirit Fire follow-up. Another thing to know about the special stance after his B is that you can backdash or forward dash, but only once. To dash from the stance, you either tap forward or back for a backdash, or you can hold forward plus jump or back plus jump for a backdash. If you backdash, you'll end the stance and be able to block. If you forward dash, you'll still be in the stance and able to threaten to parry. Onimaru's walk speed is so slow that he actually travels more quickly across the screen by doing B, then forward dash, then shoulder ram, than if he walked or jumped forward. Onimaru's forward A, which does 2 damage, can cancel into his B special, which also does 2 damage, but usually this isn't a true combo. If the opponent happens to get counter hit by the forward A, meaning hit out of the start of their move, then they'll glow red, be in hit stun longer, and these 2 moves actually will combo for a total of 4 damage. That's so devastating that you can fish for it and hope you catch the opponent in the start of a move. If they block, you can still do the 2 move sequence and then mix up which ender you'll do from Tactical Slice. Another technique to keep in mind is if you're close, you can pressure the opponent with B, A for shoulder ram, neutral A hilt bash, then repeat. You can't keep it up forever, and they can do a fast or invulnerable move to get out, but it's still a good pressure tool. His C special, Divide and Conquer, is a 2-hit move that's armored. The armor is really important because it allows you to attack even if the opponent is doing a faster move. You might get hit, but you'll hit them too. You can use the move on prediction against projectiles from far away, and you can use it as anti-air too. You'll sometimes even get both hits against the jumping opponent. His jumping A is a bunt that bounces him on hit or block. He can bounce up to 3 times for 3 hits. That's not a combo, but it can be tricky and confusing. Although he's often punishable, the opponent doesn't know if you'll do 1, 2, or 3 attacks. His jumping B, Spirit Slice, is a really long-reaching horizontal attack. Its hitbox stays active for a really long time as the samurai spirits come out. This move can command the air-to-air game, but it also lets Onimaru come down on grounded opponents. He can even threaten it as he jumps over a projectile. The very beginning of Spirit Slice is a strike attack as the sword hits, but the rest of the active frames are classified as a projectile. That means the magical samurai heads can actually destroy enemy projectiles if they happen to intersect. It means that Rook's Air B vines can go through them too, but not through the beginning part where the sword itself hits. His jumping C, Helmbreaker, has him slam down to the ground. It's armored, so he'll keep going even if he gets hit once. This move does 2 damage on hit, but it can't actually hit the opponent until it lands. And though it has long recovery, you can cancel that recovery with an invulnerable Rising Sword by pressing C again. This makes the opponent hesitant to punish this move on block because they aren't sure if you have a Rising Sword waiting for them. You can vary the timing of when you Rising Sword to further trick them. Rising Sword doesn't usually combo after Helmbreaker unless the Helmbreaker was a counter hit. In that case, you can combo easily if you're close enough. Onimaru's ground super is Martial Law. It's a huge 2 damage sword slash that's invulnerable until just before it hits. It has 2 other important properties too. First, it's fast. It's twice as fast as his other pokes, so he can punish things or interrupt things with it that he otherwise couldn't. Second, you can hold down the S button when you do it to charge up and perform a level 2 or level 3 version. These versions are not invulnerable, but the level 2 version reaches even farther and it does 3 damage, while the level 3 version reaches full screen, does 4 damage, and is unblockable. This super has many incredible uses. It gets you out of trouble, it reaches through projectiles, and even if you get hit, you deal your damage first, so maybe you'll win the round just before you die. Sometimes getting hit out of it lets you combo forward A for 4 damage total. You can land the super after a successful parry. You can use it as anti-air. You can whiff punish things. The level 3 unblockable has a lot of uses too. When you get a knockdown from the parry, or from Air B, or from a counter hit Air C, you can start charging to level 3 and threaten to do an unblockable as the opponent gets up. You can also threaten it if the opponent commits to a slow move from far, or even if they just hesitate and don't know what to do. His air super, Clockwork Soldiers, summons 2 robot soldiers that advance toward the enemy. They each have 2 hit points, so it's pretty difficult for the opponent to deal with them and Onimaru at the same time. He has a lot of potential to guard crush them during this super. A single attack from the opponent can hit both Onimaru and one of the Clockwork Soldiers, so Onimaru has to be careful in how he pressures. Try to set up deadly guard crushes while also baiting the opponent to do something dumb. Onimaru is somewhat slow and deliberate, but he's also incredibly damaging with his 2 damage attacks, 4 damage unblockable super, and unblockable guard crush setups. He usually wants to stay at mid-range and rely on his high-priority sword attacks as well as his armored moves to blow through the attacks of faster, weaker characters. If you know the enemy and know your Onimaru tools, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.